Hello. Okay, so today we are going to focus on some writing practice. So for this lesson, what you are going to need is pen and some paper to write on. If you don't have that, you can just try using your cell phone to type it out. I know that you can, there'll sometimes be an app on your phone. Here, let me get mine and show you. There's like this little notes app. I don't know what it's like for other phones, but you can open up notes and you can type on them. So you can use that if you don't have pen and a pencil or paper to write with. But this is just going to practice for you to write, but to also learn a new way to express yourself, to talk about something that you think, that you have an opinion on, or to talk about. So I also wanted to say that I'm sorry. I think that the lessons haven't been super great lately. I have a lot going on with my school. I'm taking classes right now, and we are having midterms, which is a really important part where it's a lot of tests and I write a lot of papers, and it's kind of hard. And so I'm sorry that my lessons haven't been the best, but I promise they'll get better. But for right now, I just wanted to do some writing practice. And this lesson will be the last lesson for you this week, because I am doing the lessons in more advanced and then easier English lessons for some of the for other people who maybe just need to focus more on basic things, and they're not really at the point where you are, where you want to learn how to express yourself and you want to be promoted at your job. So so I'm only going to do 2 lessons for you each week, and then 2 lessons for the easier English lessons, which I can send to you if you want those too. You just have to let me know. So today for the writing practice, we are going to do, we're going to write some sentences. So in English, here, let me try and make my little screen bigger. Okay, so in English, right, sentences are, you can think of them as little thoughts. And we start the sentences with the capital letter or a big letter, and then we end them with a thing called a period. So I'm sure you guys know about this, and I'll talk about it more as we go on. But the first thing that I want you to write is, we're going to use superlatives, right? Those words that we learned that talk about when something is the most, right? The best, the worst. When something, you're not just talking about or describing one thing, you're comparing it to all of the other things that you know. So the first thing that we're going to do is, I think the best vacation is. So you can write that out. So I think the best vacation is. So this next part is going to be up to you. And you're going to write whatever you think the best vacation is. So for me, I think the best vacation is sleeping in. So that's what I think. So, but you don't have to say the same thing. You could say, I think the best vacation is going to visit my family, right? So that would be, I think the best vacation is going to see my family. So whatever it is that you think, you're going to write at the end. You just have to write, I think the best vacation is. And you're going to say what you think the best vacation is, the one that is better than all of the other vacations that you know of. So that's the first one. And the second one, that's the first sentence that you can write. The next one that we're going to do is, I think the worst food, I think the worst food is. So this one, it's up to you. What do you think is the worst food ever? I thought about this, and I think that the worst food is, I don't really have a food that I dislike a lot, but I think the worst food is, it can be like a dish, like, right? Like it can be a meal. Like you could say, I think the worst food is hamburgers. I think they're disgusting. I don't, I love them. But that's something you could think. Or you could think that the worst food is pancakes. I think pancakes are gross. I think the worst food is cooked tomatoes. I hate cooked tomatoes. So I think the worst food, meaning the food that is the most bad or the baddest of all the other food, right, that's in the world. I think cooked tomatoes are the worst. I think they're gross and I don't like to eat them. So that's what I think the worst food is. So what you're going to do is you're going to write, I think the worst food is, and then you're going to write what you think the worst food is. The next one that we're going to do is, let's do the biggest thing, thing I own. Is. So you're going to write the biggest thing I own is, and you're going to think, what is the thing that is the biggest compared to all of the other things that I own? So I don't own a house. So that's really big, but I don't own one. But the thing that I own that I think is the biggest is I have a car. So the biggest thing I own is my car. It's not a really big car. It's kind of a regular size. It's a normal looking car. It's not like the big square ones or anything, but it's the biggest thing that I own. I don't own a lot, but I have a bed. I have and that's a bed and a car. Those are the biggest things I can think of that I own. So, but you might have, your own house. You might have your own apartment that you own, or a townhouse that you own. When I say own, it just means that it's something that belongs to you. So, for example, I live in an apartment, but I don't own it. I pay somebody else to live there, so I don't own it. But I own my car. My car is something that belongs to me. So it's something that I own. So that's kind of what that means. The next thing we're going to write about is, let's write about the strongest part of my body. So this one, you just have to think about, okay, so what is the strongest part of my body? What part of my body is the strongest? So some people have really strong arms. Some people have really strong legs. Sometimes they have really strong like abs, or they have a really strong back, like back muscles. So I would say, for me, the strongest part of my body is the strongest part of my body I think I might have to use are. The strongest part of my body. The strongest part of my body is my legs. So, yeah, the strongest part of my body is my legs. So for me, I'm the strongest in my legs. Now, I do not think that I have the strongest legs. So what does that mean? What am I saying? So I do not think that I have the strongest legs, but the strongest part of my body is my legs. So when I say that I don't think that I have the strongest legs, I do not have the strongest legs, means that I'm comparing my legs to all of the other people's legs, right? But when I say that the strongest part of my body is my legs, I'm comparing it to just my body, not other people's body. So I can say the strongest part of my body is my legs, but I could also say that I do not have the strongest legs, because if I say that, and I'm comparing myself to like everybody else in the world, which I don't think I have the strongest legs in the world. But you may think I have the strongest arms in the world, right? Or you're like, I have the strongest back in the world. Whatever it is, you're just talking about like the strongest part of your body is just about you. So you're comparing your arm muscles to your leg muscles, to your back muscles, or to like your other parts of your body. So the strongest part of my body is my leg. Sorry, I'm yawning. I keep yawning. Okay, so the next part, the next sentence that we're going to do is the smallest animal I have seen is. So for this one, you're going to think about the smallest animal you have ever seen. So the smallest animal I have seen is, for me, I'm going to count only the animals that I've seen in real life, meaning I've seen lots of animals on like television and in books, but I'm going to only count the animals that I've seen in real life. So the smallest animal I have seen in real life, let me think, is probably, I've seen a gecko. So I think a gecko, I've seen the tiny little, I think in Puerto Rico they call them croquis. I can't remember what they're called, but they're the tiny little geckos, the little lizard geckos that are in Puerto Rico. But I think they're called cookies or croquis, something like that. But that's the smallest one that I've seen. So I'm just gonna say the smallest animal I have seen is a gecko. Now, you could have seen like really tiny animals before, or maybe you're like, the smallest animal I have seen is a mouse. But so you're just going to write what the smallest animal you have seen is. The next one that we're going to do is the most expensive thing I own is. So for this one, just to like remind you, we use the most expensive instead of expensivest, because the word expensive, it has 3 beats in it. We call them 3 syllables. And anything that's more than 2, you're gonna want to use the word most before it. And if it's only 1, like small, right, you say smallest. So small, that's only 1 beat, right? So you say smallest. Expensive, the word expensive is 3. So we're going to use the word most. The most expensive thing I own is, and I think the most expensive thing I own is my car. Let's say I think the most expensive thing I own is my car. Now you could be like, the most expensive thing I own is my house. My house was very expensive. Or you might have a really nice phone that you paid a lot of money for. You could say the most expensive thing I own is my phone. Or you could have a pair of shoes that you paid a lot of money for. You could have a really nice coat or clothing that you paid a lot of money for. But you have to think of the most expensive, which means it was a lot of money, and it was more money than all of the other things you own. So the most expensive thing I own is my car. The most expensive thing you own could be anything. You could say, the most expensive thing I own is my phone. The most expensive thing I own are a pair of Louis Vuitton shoes that I bought, or my Louis Vuitton suitcase. I don't know if you have one of those. I don't think I will ever have one of those, but it could be something that was really expensive. I don't know. So that's one thing. So the next sentence that we're going to do is, I wish I could be with you to talk with you about this, because I really want to know what you guys think. But the worst season is. The worst season is. So you're going to write this. The worst season is, and then you're going to finish the sentence. The worst season is. So I think the worst season is summer. Oh, what? How could I? I hate summer. I think summer, the only thing that I like about summer is that you have, like, fruit is cheaper and vegetables are cheaper. That's the only thing I like about it. I hate summer. I think summer is the worst season, right? So there's that. I think summer is the worst season. Absolute worst season. Now, you may be thinking, Allison, I think the worst season is winter. Snow, ugh, hate it. It's awful. So it's up to you. Whatever you think the worst season is, you could think it's spring, fall, or you could think it's winter. But just tell me just write down what you think the worst season is. All right, the next one is one that I think is, I'd like to know. So the easiest, so now let me show you this real quick. So the word we used is easy, right? And easy means simple, right? Not hard, not difficult. So when we put the S at the end, because it's only one syllable, easy, right? One B, easy. I guess people can be like easy, but it's just easy. Easiest is, instead of, because it ends in a Y, we change it to an I and put EST. So the easiest days at work are. So we're going to think about this. The easiest days at work are. Now we could think about this and be like, okay, what are the easiest days at work? So I actually have another job besides teaching. I also work at a library. So the easiest days at work are, for me, the easiest days at work are when I do not have projects, because they're really simple and I don't have to do a lot. Now for you, I know that you guys do a lot of stuff all day. The easiest days at work are. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna just think about what makes my day easier. The easiest days at work are when, we're using the WH word, are when, meaning the easiest days are the time when nobody is homesick. So that means all of your coworkers are there, right? Or the easiest days are when there are no operations. That could also be one of the easiest days. Or the easiest days are when there are not a lot of patients. So things like that. So just think about, what are the easiest days for you? There aren't a lot of patients. When there aren't a lot of operations, there are no operations. What are the easiest days for you? So the easiest days for me are when I do not have projects that I'm doing that I have to get done by the end of the day. But for you, it could be different. So that's the easiest days, the days when you feel calm, when you feel like you don't have a lot to do, that things are easy, right? So now I want to know about the hardest days. So the hardest days at work. What are the hardest days at work for you? So the hardest days at work, I think the hardest days at work are when I need to skip my break. So sometimes at work, I have so many things going on that I have to skip my break or I don't take my lunch. Those are the hardest days because I feel like I never got a chance to rest. Now, you guys do way harder work than I do all day. So the hardest days at work could be, when there are only a few of you there, right? When everybody else is out sick or on vacation. Or it could be the hardest days are when my manager is gone because you have to take care of everything. So that could be it. So the hardest days at work are when my manager is gone. So that could be something that's the hardest days at work. The hardest days at work are when my manager is gone. So meaning that your manager is not there. So just try to think about what is the hardest day at work for you? What are the hardest days like? And then talk about it. So the hardest days at work are when my manager is gone. I think work is really hard when I am given too much to do. So the hardest days at work are when I am given too much to do. So that could be another one. So that's it for today. So just take time, write out these sentences. It's okay if you're not sure, if you're like, I don't know if I use is or are or how I put these together. Just practice getting it out there, right? Getting something out and writing it on the page is always, better than not being sure. It's important to make mistakes when you're learning a language. That's good. Making mistakes is good because that's how we learn, right? So I learn, better when I make a mistake because then I know, oh, that was not the right way. And now I can change it. So just remember, it's okay to say things wrong. It's okay to write the wrong thing. It's okay if it isn't perfectly correct in English. Just know that there are people who are native English speakers who mess up all the time. I say the wrong stuff all the time, stuff that is not correct, stuff that if it was on a test, I would get it marked wrong. So don't worry about making mistakes. Just try it. Just try to get it out there, and whatever you have out there is good. You're moving forward. All right, so that's it for today.